Hello again, 2 videos in one day. This time I wanted to talk about Pride Month, and just share my journey in discovering my identity and becoming more comfortable with who I am, and just all of that. So first off, I use the terms queer, pansexual, and bisexual pretty interchangeably to describe myself, depending on the situation that I'm in, the context of why I'm using the word, and who's asking. They're all accurate, and none of them is entirely correct on their own. And then, in addition to my sexuality, I am non-binary trans masculine. I take testosterone shots weekly, in order to, like, one, grow the beard, two, change my voice. If you look at some of my older videos, you may notice the voice change. I actually didn't notice the voice change until I went back and looked at some of my old vlogs. I thought that my voice wasn't changing. But I've been on hormones for... The first time I got any hormones was probably in 2014 or 15. I don't remember exactly. But then, because of my needle phobia, I had to stop taking the shots. And then I discovered that I could do the patches, and I did that for about a year at one point, and that didn't really do much for me, so I started doing the shots in my doctor's office. My doctor was doing the shots for me, and that worked great until I changed doctors, and now my partner does my shots for me. So I first learned about gender and sexuality, that people could be something other than cisgender and heterosexual, in high school. One of my really good friends back then, and they're still a good friend now, was in our school's Gay Straight Alliance. And I think out of my graduating class was only 20 students, but thinking about it, there was an agender asexual person, a cisgender bisexual person, a cisgender gay person, and if there was anyone else, I don't know about it. And then there was me. At the time, I thought I was cisgender and bisexual, and have since learned more about gender and myself. So there was that. And then when I was in college, I was in my college's GSA, and my good friend from my high school's GSA was also in college with me at the same time, and I think they were the president of the GSA at the college, but I don't remember exactly. But anyway, they were in it, and we went to a conference in Vancouver, Washington, which was only a couple hours drive from our college. I'm sure if I thought about it now, I could remember the name of the conference, but I don't remember it exactly. If you know me and you were there, remind me the name of the conference. But I met some great people at the conference, and I learned more than I thought I was going to. And I don't remember all of it, because mostly it was just like, this is really fascinating information, and it's cool to know this stuff. And there were a few workshops on safer sex, and a few workshops on being more accepting even if you're only an ally, and things like that. But I think it was the very last workshop I went to was a Gender 101. And my experiences to that point with gender had been mostly what my parents had conveyed to me. I have a non-blood family member who is no longer a family member because of divorce, but anyway, who transitioned. And my family was actually really awful about it. And that's what I absorbed growing up, was that it was a disease, an illness, and people who who medically transition or socially transition are sick people. And I just want to reassure you, I don't think that way now. That, obviously, I wouldn't be who I am now if I still thought that way. But that's what I was taught growing up, and that's what I absorbed growing up. And at this conference, I had thought that I was going into this gender 101 thing with a feminist spin, that like men and women are different in these ways, and this is how you can respect that, and that sort of thing. What I caught was a lot more, and really informative. I don't remember all of it, but it gave me vocabulary words to look up. And I remember just having this moment in the workshop that it was okay. It wasn't a sickness. It was normal. And that you could live the way you were. Like, it was an option to medically or socially transition. You didn't have to stay in the closet. And it made me realize that I'd been moving towards this moment for a long time, and I just hadn't had that light bulb moment up until then, that's who I was. And after the workshop, I came back home, and I immediately went out to a thrift store, and I bought a bunch of men's button-down shirts and ties and stuff, and I'd always, I don't know about always, but I'd pushed the boundaries on clothing and aesthetics and stuff before, and when I was 16, I cut my hair really short, probably shorter than it is now, and I was really happy with it at the time, and of course my family was not understanding or accepting, and all that. I wore ties to school sometimes, but I had a goth phase in high school, and so I kind of assumed it was associated with that, just that I was a rebel. And I mean, sure, I am a rebel, but it wasn't just that. So this workshop helped kind of open my eyes and open my brain to who I am. And at the very beginning, I think I feared pushback from my family and from friends and that sort of thing. And so at the very beginning, I identified as and called myself non-binary or gender fluid, to just kind of explore gender and see how it felt to me to wear different clothes and go by different pronouns and all of that, just socially. And it went better than I was expecting. It felt so good to wear a binder and to wear more masculine clothing to school and to be treated that way. And so I decided, well, if it feels this good, I must be completely transmasculine. I must be completely male. And so I tried that on for a while, and that felt okay. I'll admit I went towards toxic masculinity. I bought the muscle shirts, and I bought workout equipment, and not like the home gym type stuff, but just like a jump rope and weights and stuff that I could do from my apartment. And at the time it felt okay. It didn't feel bad, but I didn't know as much about gender and feminism and that sort of thing as I do now. And now I can recognize that I was participating in toxic masculinity. And after a time, it felt like too much. It didn't feel like me. It felt like a mask. And that wasn't what I wanted. And so, I don't remember exactly when I went back to calling myself gender fluid and non-binary. But at some point I did. It may not have been even a moment that I was like, nope, doing this now. It may have just happened on its own. But in any case, that's how I identify now. It's been it's been a long journey. I think the workshop that I went to was in 2011 or 2012. I don't remember exactly. So it's been 6 years knowing that I'm not cisgender. And on sexuality, high school, I think, was when I learned the word for bisexual. I kind of always knew on that one. There was no real light bulb moment that, like, it's okay to be not straight. Although I did get pushback from my family and other people on that. But I didn't have the same message that it was an illness or whatnot. I heard that it was a sin, that it was a choice and it was a bad choice. And so growing up, at least as a teenager, I was already okay with, like, sinning in that regards, that it didn't bother me. I knew my own moral code and I followed my own moral code instead of the Bible's, or any misuse of the Bible. So there's that. I'm also polyamorous, although I don't generally have long-term multiple partners, and I haven't had more than one long-term relationship at the same time. But I do date other people at times. I think probably most of the reason that I don't have more than one long-term stable partner is because of my disability. It is really difficult to date when you're disabled, and it just compounds it to be polyamorous. There are very few people who are okay with both. So, happy Pride Month. If you want to share your journey story or your coming out story or anything related to Pride Month, put a link in the comments. I'll watch your video. And yeah, happy Pride.